Excuse me, Connie. Okay. I wonder if I could, if I
if John's in the room with us right now, but he is. Let's give a round of applause. Okay, and I'd also like to take just a moment to recognize another former board member of ours, an important member of our family, Neil Dano, who served as vice president of the club and sadly passed away just this last fall. If we could just take a moment of silence to remember Neil and his family. Thank you. All right. I want to take just a moment to do a longtime tradition of ours at the club, and that is to recognize even attending conventions. So if I could ask everybody to if you're a first-time attendee at a convention, please stand. We'd like to recognize you first of all. I just want to say that is an absolutely wonderful number of first-time attendees. It's great to have lots of new blood in the club. All right, now, those of you who were sitting near those people that just stood, if you are a more senior member of the club, please get to know these people. Welcome them into the club. Make them feel a part of the family. I think all of us who have been in the club for a while regularly remark about the friends and the fellowship that we experience as a part of this club. Make sure that you extend that outward to these new members of the club and bring them into the fold, show them what we do, and make it fun for them. Now, I'd like everybody to please stand up. Yes, so now, this is the way we have long done our tradition here. If this is your first convention, you may be seated. Now, if you have attended 2 conventions, you may sit down. If you have attended 3 conventions, I am seated virtually at this point. 4 conventions attendance, please sit down. 5 conventions. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, these are the diehards, 12, 13, and 14. All 14 conventions. Okay. Now I would like to introduce Cynthia McLeod, Superintendent of Independence National Historical Park. Cindy has served as the superintendent here for more than 8 years, beginning in early 2008. Among her achievements are the installation of new exhibits at the Edgar Allan Poe National Historic Site, the Kosciuszko Memorial, and the Germantown White House, all of which I'd like to mention will be featured on our trolley tour tomorrow. Prior to joining Independence, Cindy served for nearly 18 years as the superintendent of Richmond National Battlefield Park and the Maggie L. Walker National Historic Site. She began her career with the Park Service in 1980 in Michigan as an architectural historian. She holds a bachelor's degree from Duke University and a master's from the University of Virginia in architectural history. Her talk today is entitled Independence National Historical Park, Present and Past. Please join me in welcoming Cindy McLeod.
It's great to be with you all. I've loved seeing all the shirts around Philadelphia because you wear them proudly. And a hip hip huzzah to the 2 of you who've been to 14 of these conventions. Really great stuff. I appreciate so much. Is that better? I thank you very much for inviting me to be here with you, to give you a little talk even in this hot room. I hope you survive. I've got a nice breeze now here from so I'll be here for a long time. The ties between visitors and longstanding allies of the National Park Service and the Park Service are long and deep and sometimes complicated. But I'll have to say, I think our visitors and our partners make us better. Thank you so much for the Mather plaque that you've donated to Independence National Historical Park, and I think some of the rock that it's embedded in. So that's a very generous donation. If you all haven't seen it yet, we're going to unveil it on Thursday, but it's there for you to see now right by the Visitor Center on the east door. I think it's absolutely awesome that you came here to the birthplace of the United States to celebrate the birth of the National Park Service. I'm sure that was intentional on your part. Thank you for being here. You know, even Ken Burns starts with the Declaration of Independence in his films, but he never actually mentions the park. So that you all are spending so much time here warms my heart. We also, well, we're talking about this Quaker meeting house, and it really is a wonderful historic place, but it's also very current and involved with things that contemporary events, and they've helped the park out a couple times too. But in the park, if you haven't seen it, we tell the story, and we have the building of the Free Quakers. The Free Quaker meeting house is at 5th and Arch. There were some Quakers who thought this idea of independence and freedom was worth fighting for. And they got kicked out of meetings, but they formed their own. And they still come back, the descendants come back and meet there once a year. Thought I'd run through some fun events from the last year. In the last calendar, 12 months, we've welcomed the Pope. We welcomed the Democratic National Convention, plus at least 4 million other special people to the park. In March, we celebrated the centennial of the Park Service with a really wonderful flower show with our partner, the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. I don't know if any of you who are more local had a chance to come, but it was an $8 million, 8-day effort with tons of volunteers and park rangers from all over the country coming to help us. It was beautiful and it was substantial. I think we opened a lot of eyes about, oh, you do this? And I got more than one comment, are you a real park ranger? You know, when we're out of context, it's like, whoa, I recognize that hat, but really. So as you know, and I think a number of you have been to see Independence Hall this morning. I hope you had a good visit. And we're delighted that we're able to open some of the other places that aren't normally open for you, as Roland said. We share the stories of the founding and the growth of the United States with all kinds of interested groups. There's so many stories. I like your shirt, where'd it go? The Untold Story. Well, that's yet another one. It's a brand new park, but there are untold stories here too, and we love to have the opportunity, the time to go in them. Most of the people just want to come and hear about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and we're lucky if they can tell the two apart. But they're here, and it's a start. In addition to the hall and the bell, there are 3 National Historic Landmarks. I'll get to my slides in a minute. Other historic buildings, an accredited museum collection, gardens and lawns, and the President's House exhibit. Visitors do come from all over the world. We think about 20% of them are from outside the United States. The most recently revived site within the park is the $24 million Benjamin Franklin Museum, located between 3rd and 4th Street and Chestnut and Market. I'm happy that it has gotten quite good reviews for the new entrance and for the exhibits, because we invested a lot in it. Children of all ages enjoy it, and families enjoy it together. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend that you do. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of the history of the park and show you some details that you might not notice on a quick trip, or even a 4-day trip through the park. Congress's 1948 legislation for Independence National Historical Park, and I heard some of you were here in the 50s, so they were just getting the park going. The legislation opened opportunities for a new kind of park. As you know, Yellowstone and other national parks west had been carved out of property already owned by the federal government. So think about it. The Philadelphia movement, there were a lot of local people who wanted to see the shrine of Independence Hall made into a national park. They were starting from scratch to transform private and city-owned property that had densely developed over 200 years. So the early and strong interest, we can go to the next slide. Is it advancing?
It might take a second.
Okay. The early and strong local interest in the federal park and its benefits for Philadelphia continues to the present day. As I said, we have lots of great partners here. Park development has been a public-private partnership from day one, with significant donations from state and local governments and many philanthropic foundations and private individuals. To start at the beginning of the park idea for Independence Hall, we have to go back to at least the 1870s, when Philadelphians were thinking about the centennial of the United States of America. They turned their creative and patriotic thoughts to redesign Independence Square, only Independence Square, wanting to make it a national shrine. The ideas were many, and they changed and churned over decades before the national government finally was able to take action. The main goal of those luminaries was to provide Independence Hall with a setting that would literally set it apart from other buildings in the densely constructed environment, and you can see that. I think you see Independence Hall. I hope it's not too small for some of you in the back. So they wanted to set it apart for protection from fire, and then another motivation was to hold large, dignified, patriotic ceremonies with sufficient room for comfort and visual appreciation. Hard to even get far enough away to take a picture of the hall at this point. Now, next one. A 1937 plan was labeled for redevelopment of historic area. It was drawn for the Preservation Committee of the AIA. It was one of the first times that the American Institute of Architects was interested in historic preservation. Shows the influence of those are trained professionals in the grand axes and broad vistas, but also writing off all buildings after 1835. The proposed park design included both Washington Square, which is now part of the park, and Franklin Square, which is not part of the park, and 2 blocks north of the entrance to the Ben Franklin Bridge to New Jersey. It was really quite extensive, over 5 long blocks. The initiative played off other ideas to have national park units in the eastern United States. If you remember, President Roosevelt in 1930 and 1935, 33 and 35 had expanded the National Park Service idea with holdings in the east, and the Jefferson Expansion National Memorial in St. Louis, legislated in 1935. Were all significant change from the 1916 establishment of the National Park Service. But in the 30s, the 1930s, as you can imagine, the only source of financial ability to carry out any great improvements was the federal government, and even it wasn't ready to invest heavily in Philadelphia or St. Louis. Next slide. Determining the fate of the second bank building, which you see on the right here, on Chestnut Street, could have been a catalyst for the national park. This is where our portrait collection is now, if you haven't seen that. The architecturally significant second bank building is located right between Independence Hall and the new in 1934 U.S. Custom House. That's the other really tall building to the east. The second bank became redundant in 1934 because it had been a custom house, and its preservation was advocated by local and national level figures, including some from the National Park Service. So transfer of the second bank to the National Park Service in 1939, before the park was actually legislated, was the first step in NPS involvement in historic preservation in Philadelphia. But then still local politics and World War II made, again, forget timing for investment by anybody. Real estate interests, though, city boosters and big thinkers and patriots prevailed finally with the creation, in theory, of the park, Independence National Historical Park, it's a mouthful, in 1948. Next slide. federal designation of approximately 50 acres in Philadelphia with Independence Hall at the spiritual core, highlighted preservation of several national landmarks. You see the Merchants Exchange building down on the lower left. It championed partnerships even then and was planned also to revitalize private investment in the neighborhoods. This part of town had declined significantly. That 1937 Beaux-Arts plan was not included in the legislation. I say thank goodness. The 3 blocks north of Independence Hall were made property of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in 1945, and demolition by the state ensued to make a park there. Only Independence Square was able to be conveyed relatively quickly in 1950 to National Park Service management. The remainder of the federally designated property had to be acquired or arranged for preservation through cooperative partnership. That was a long process and an expensive one. Next slide. Thank you, Connie, for doing it. No problem. While the master plan for the park was being prepared for the National Park Service in the early 1950s, I've read that 22 external organizations were voicing their interest for being located within the park. People seemed to think this was a good idea and actually would help the city as well as the National Shrine. National Park Service landscape architect and architect Charlie Peterson, infamous in Philadelphia and deceased, but a dear man, I was glad to be able to meet him, put forth a plan that would retain many of the 18th and 19th century buildings on the east axis of the park. Buildings for which the park didn't necessarily have a use, but were desired by some of these other organizations. Next slide. The 1954 master plan by the Park Service shows little of Peterson's influence. Carpenter's Hall sits there in green isolation, almost in the middle of the plan. There was to be more garden than wall on Walnut Street. The plan shows all green along Chestnut Street. Under a subsequent modification, there would be massive demolition of everything except colonial and early Republic landmark buildings. There would be 2 perpendicular malls for the shrine buildings to be isolated in that green Beaux-Arts splendor. Luckily, nothing happened. 3 years later, the park was still in planning mode, and everybody was frustrated by the lack of progress and the lack of funds. Next, please. These may be too small for you in the back, I'm sorry. The October 1957 plan that the director of the Park Service, Connie Worth at the time, stamped as approved was yet another configuration and even further modified as it was implemented over time. Mission 66 came along and gave the park that financial infusion that enabled things to start happening. So the massive demolition of buildings on the purchased properties was controversial then and occasionally echoes today. There are photographs with a dramatic story to show before, during, and after demolition of some buildings on Chestnut Street. You can, on the one on the left, you can see the little tower of Carpenter's Hall. You see a massive brick building in the foreground that was designed by Frank Furness, and it's probably the most controversial of the demolition projects. Then to the left of that are other important buildings, including the Jane building, a precursor to the skyscrapers. You can see the south portico of the second bank. Actually, you can just barely see the north portico of the second bank, too. You can't see Independence Hall at all. Let's go to the next one. So aerial views of Independence Square looking north show the progress of several plans. Comparison of the photos shows how many buildings had been demolished, if you remember the earlier one. All of this demolition was underway by 1959. Next. A photo from the 1960s shows very rectilinear plantings and a large fountain on the mall. Stark contrast to the National Park Service development of the grounds to the east of Independence Hall. Remember, this is all the state design. Next. Here we've got another picture from 1979 with what I call fascist design on the north blocks there. And then by 2013, the current, softer history referencing and purposely more idiosyncratic, I think, design by the old studio. Shows that the Liberty Bell Pavilion had been now moved from the center and moved over to the west side. We also had gained a new visitor center, a new Constitution Center, and much different landscape. Next. The care of the park's architectural treasures had started in 1959 by National Park Service experts with demolition of the unwanted structures and continued really through the 1970s with restorations, reconstructions, landscape modifications, and site interpretations. I wanted to brag a little bit about some of my predecessors at the park, just because they really set the standard for historic preservation and very careful work. They provided a role model for historic preservation both in and out of the National Park Service. Next. The National Park Service restoration of Independence Hall was taken by NPS architects. Did you know it was stripped down to the bare walls? Architects and one very sensible engineer who treated the whole building as an archaeological site. They gleaned clues by studying every detail during interior deconstruction. They did comparative analyses with other historic structures. They studied historic documents. They purposefully left as much historic material as possible in place, and they recorded and shared their pioneering work as teaching tools for this new historic preservation movement. Next. I thought I named them, but I will. Lee Nelson, Penny Batchelor, and Nick Giannakos are just heroes in my mind to the historic preservation movement. After painstaking research, the National Park Service completed the reconstruction of the forecourt buildings of Carpenter's Hall. This is the site of that Burness building and the Jane building that we lost. Pretty high cost, but that Carpenter's Court is a wonderful thing in itself now. Next. Numerous historic structures were restored to their original appearance, like the Bishop White House and the Dolly Todd House on Walnut Street. I think maybe some of you are going to see that, although we can take on very few people in at a time, but they're well worth seeing. More vernacular historic buildings on Locust Street were rehabilitated for park employee housing, and we're still working on them, making them decent housing. Next slide, please. When it came to what to do with the area around the site of Ben Franklin's house, the National Park Service took a different approach. This was the early 1970s. There was some serious professional disagreement over the treatment, and there were intense archaeological investigations, but the park hired Robert Venturi and Denise Scott Brown to come up with a solution. Their design for Franklin Court, I think, deserves its own National Historic Landmark designation. Venturi and Scott Brown's Franklin Court provided innovation in design rather than reconstruction of Franklin's house and print shop. The multifaceted scheme uses traditional materials in completely novel ways at the time. It was 1974. They established what is known as the Ghost House, painted steel pieces, also raised garden beds on a grid, brick walls, slate and cobblestone street, and viewing scopes for archaeology. Now I need my glasses because I lost this time. It says I need to move the microphone. So we checked our impulse to reconstruct the missing building and built this highly successful minimalist structure and rich interpretation of William Franklin's home in Philadelphia. Next. I think many people agree not all forays into modern design in the park were successful. When the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was ready to convey the blocks north of Market Street to the National Park Service, there was both an opportunity to re-examine the state mall design and intent, and an obligation to fix a miscalculation that located the visitor center 2 blocks east of Independence Hall. Next. Private money enabled the mall to be reconceived and redesigned in the late 1990s. Millions came from the Pew Charitable Trust and others. The redesign was informed by a rigorous public engagement process. the National Park Service prescribed clear guidelines for the redevelopment of this newest part of the park. The Olin firm was successful, I think, and very skillful in being faithful to the axis concept, but adding curved lines and small garden spaces to soften the previous rectilinear and hard landscape. The new wall of buildings, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, on the west helps shrink the monumental mall space and mitigate criticism that Independence Hall would look like a peanut on the landscape with that extensive a stretch. Emphasis on the minor street locations and diagonal crossways keeps the mall pedestrian friendly with an overall green appearance. Separate and individual gardens also give an opportunity for a person to enjoy an intimate scale within a very large space. Pulled in some of the best concepts from the areas east of Independence Hall. I have to say, I think even so, it's still a challenge to ameliorate the scale of the mall versus the size of Independence Hall. I'd be interested to know what you all think. Closing the Independence Mall at the north end with the new in 2000 private nonprofit National Constitution Center helps create a community of space and museums. The building is owned by the federal government, was designed by IMK's firm, and veers in tradition, but not, veers in, from tradition in form, but not materials. Next. The controversial design and location of the 1976 Visitor Center at 3rd and Chestnut Streets, lower left, left it vulnerable to change. Maybe some of you remember it. In 2001, it was replaced by a new Visitor Center building at 6th and Market on the mall. That building was designed as a long, thin building, really a wall along the west side of Block 2. And next, in 2003, the Liberty Bell Center was constructed on the west side of Block 1, replacing the Liberty Bell Pavilion, which had come in 1976. In 2008, the north side of the Liberty Bell Center was amended to interpret the President's House site. I'm very happy with the way that turned out, although it started out controversial, talking about interpreting slavery, Washington's slaves, that he brought up for Mount Vernon. Next slide. So we've been through a chronology of the development of the park. I'd like to show you some pictures so you can look at some of the elements that makes this park, it's what it is, with its own design and integrity and a genius really of its own. A pictorial tour, and maybe you'll go back out and look at some of these things, things that a bucket list visitor wouldn't normally pick up on. The details, to me, make all the difference in the success of the layout of the park plan. None of the factions in how to develop the park in the 50s and 60s seem to have disagreed about the use of colonial revival walls and gates in the landscape. They've just done something to this. Once you notice them, you realize that the details and the landscape elements are fundamental to the ambience and identity of the park. Once you study them, you marvel at the variety within the theme. Look at these two gates to different gardens. Designed and fabricated by the Samuel Yellen Metalworkers Company, and anybody from Philadelphia understands how cool it is that we have Yellen Metalwork, are just amazing. One of these has a curved top, one has a rectilinear top, all of them have circles and scrolls. Next. Advocates from the 1950s for the use of minor street and alley patterns, intimate gardens, and an urban sense of enclosure could see their vision realized in the treatment of the property east of Independence Hall. If you look at the ground level pavement and low brick walls and interpretive signs, I think you'll be rewarded. The 2004 plan for the mall used some of these concepts as well. Next slide. Brickwork and stone masonry are of the highest quality in design and execution. All of this is from 1959 to 65. Dock Creek is an important element in the landscape, interrupted by this swale and low brick bridge. Next slide. Brick was used to construct low walls to outline missing 18th century buildings. Informative signs give brief descriptions of each location. Sidewalks showed a change in brick pattern, where there was a change in 18th century property lots. Won't this be fun to go out and look at your next time out? Cobblestones and historic streets evoke an 18th century ambience. Pennsylvania bluestone is used for curbing and also for sidewalks in front of 19th century landmark buildings. The Second Bank and the Merchants Exchange building. See, details matter. Yes. Everywhere in the park and around 18th century buildings grounds, there are unifying elements of colonial revival design walls and gates. The elements have an amazing variety, as I said. They're probably mistaken today as 18th century elements, and I think they're too often unappreciated as individuals. That's okay, as long as people have a good time. The walls around Independence Square have a curved marble cap. Some brick walls from 1960 to 75 have a double or G-shaped or flat marble cap. Some of those newer brick walls are low with no iron railing. Some have brick. Well, I could just go on with the descriptions, but I think you get the idea. Some of the walls have water tables, some rise straight from ground to the finish. The vocabulary is recognizable, it's delightful, and it's unifying, despite its variety for the park property. Some pickets are tapered, some are twisted with extra curls. Next slide. Within feet of each other, two different gates on Chestnut Street are a study of contrast. The Iron Gate to Carpenter's Court on the right features Masonic symbols in the ironwork. Subtle but geometrically intricate. Iron Gate to Oriana Street, right next door, has more abstract curls and twists. Next slide. Just wanted to give you a close-up of some of the details of the Carpenter's Court gate. Next slide. A blueprint proving that it's yellow ironwork. That was really fun to find in the archives. Next slide. Different designs are indicators of the different resources behind the gates. This is a different garden entrance to Carpenter's Hall. It has a gate of a different scale and more floral design. Next. The Crescent Ironworks were responsible for some later work in 1975 that could only be installed when that property was finally acquired. Remember I said it was a long process. We were still getting property in 1975. But ironwork from the 2000 improvements on the mall were similar, but different. You see those on the right. Next slide. On the east side of the park is the National Historic Landmark, the first bank of the United States. Really splendid in itself and enhanced in its landscape with extra features to enjoy. Next slide. So just look at those gates. We've gilded. There's an eagle, rosette to the designs of James Curious. Next slide. Watch boxes, cobblestone streets, fences were all added to the landscape as interpretive elements to reinforce the message of 18th centuryness in the park. Next slide. So what do you think? You think these architectural landscape elements really did knit the C blocks together into a subtly identifiable whole? I think that was the intent. It'll never be boring or repetitive, and I think all of this helps with the quality of interpretation in Independence National Historical Park. Next slide. Other elements of the landscape, individual gardens, are also important features of the National Historical Park. And I've been working with the staff to try to get the gardens in as good shape as the landmark buildings should be. It's a work in progress. The Magnolia Garden that I show here was a gift to the park from the Garden Club of America in 1959. It's splendid any time of year. Next one. It's located again adjacent to the former superintendent's residence. And guess what? There are more gates with more unique designs. Next slide. The 18th century garden on the left, which is next to the Dolly Todd House, was tended for many years by the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, now by volunteers supplemented by park staff. Another garden on the right, the site of the Benjamin Rush House, will be the new home of the Bicentennial Bell, once our friends replaces the limit. Next slide. The Rose Garden was designed for the Bicentennial with roses populated by the Daughters of the American Revolution. Next slide. Donors and volunteers are vital in ensuring that the gardens thrive. I try not to miss an opportunity to thank our donors and our volunteers. Next slide. This National Historical Park is really also an arboretum with hundreds of types of trees, from the Franklinia to the American chestnut to a moon tree. Next slide. The creation of the park had many compromises in the early years and evolved, as you have seen, even into the 21st century with substantial partners. All, I think, local residents, visitors, and park staff have benefited from the committed interest in the park from world-class designers and professionals. The national park status, I hope you agree, is apparent on the grounds, but at the same time, the function of the park has always been to complement and assist the neighboring areas. Independence was one of the first national parks to be conceived and executed as much as an urban renewal civic improvement project as a national shrine. Ideas new in 1948 have been sustained and are still proving their worth, even if sometimes the perspective on the novelty has changed. Architecture and landscape design have been consciously edited and selected in every phase of the park's physical evolution from the 1950s to the current era. While the significance of events and the historic buildings are the raison d'etre for the park, the green spaces, fences, and gates have proven to be of vital importance. The big bones of the design have remained constant since 1960. So some formal axes, zones with an intimate scale, a mix of landmark and period infill buildings, articulated minor streets. The green space is, I think, a leitmotif in the park's design. Next slide. None of this would be possible without dedicated National Park Service staff, generous donors, reasonable critics, caring partners, and volunteers. As superintendent in 2016, I'm very grateful to those who came before me and to those to whom I will entrust this place. Independence National Historical Park is a national park, above all others, that is, to borrow a phrase, by the people and for the people. Thank you all for being here. Are there any questions? There's a lot. There's so much to talk about here.
How far back do the construction records go?
Sorry?
How far back do the original construction records? Are there any of them
A
still
lot of them
around?
are, well, some are in the Athenaeum here in Philadelphia. Some of the private designers. A lot of the Park Service work is in Denver, our Denver office, and we have some in our archives here too. We should have everything somewhere. Any other questions? Okay.
You know, the Park Service is, in the minds of many members of the public, most associated with these grand spaces of the outdoors, you know, kind of scenic wonders of America. But an urban park is a very different place. So, in your mind, what is your favorite part about being the boss of an urban park?
Well, I guess it's not that it's an urban park as much as it's the birthplace of the United States of America. And we can talk about the best of ourselves, and we can also learn from the lessons that history teaches us about today. I do love the energy of Philadelphia. As you heard, I'm an architectural historian, I like gardens, so and there's a fabulous restaurant scene in Philadelphia. So all those urban things are fabulous. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. The question was, she saw the Museum of American Revolution being built, and when will it open? Next April is the plan. And I hear they're on track. That's private, nonprofit. We traded the property. That's where our old visitor center was. We traded that property for property at Battle Forge. There's one in Yorktown too. Okay. So one more suggestion. This one.
So, thank you, Superintendent McLeod. On behalf of the National Park Travelers Club, I just wanted to say thanks to you and to your staff who've helped us put together all of the convention activities. We've spent a lot of time emailing and phone calling, and I think that everything has been a very successful convention so far, and we just wanted to thank you and your staff for all the hard work that you put in. Thank you.
Each year, our club creates a special stamper, what we call an iconic stamper. It represents the essence of the park and commemorates our convention. And at this time, I would like to present you with the iconic stamper for Independence National Historical Park. We know you don't have very many over there, you visitors, so you have plenty of room for this, so this will be for the, we're going to keep it here the rest of the day for the folks here to use it, but we will drop it off at the visitor center today or tomorrow. Okay? And additionally, our club has collected money for a donation to the park. We'll be matching any money donated up to $350 from today and for another week, and we will forward that total amount to you in about 2 weeks. That'll help pay for the rock a little bit more. We're looking for that. And Roland?
All right, we're going to ask for Superintendent McLeod's help to acknowledge those members who have achieved important milestones in park visitation. First of all, would those of you who have, in this past year, since our last convention, reached the plateau of visiting 100 park units, meaning you've now achieved the Bronze Lifetime Achievement Award, if you would please stand. Next, I'd like to have those who have completed visits at least 200 park units and reached the Silver Lifetime Achievement Awards. Please stand. For those of you who have reached 300 park unit visits and have now achieved the Gold Lifetime Achievement status, please stand. Now, another award that we give is for the Lower 48 Achievement, where people who have visited all the units in the 48 contiguous states, including Tule Lake as a part of the World War II in the Pacific, and Klondike in Seattle. The members who have reached the Lower 48 award this year are also members who have reached platinum status, just by coincidence this year. Those who have visited all the national park units in existence at the time of their last visit. Now, as I call your name, I'd like you to please stand and, well, actually not just stand, I'd like you to come down front because we've got a little something we'd like to give you. So, these are our new platinum members for the year. And I'd like to say, and I was going to mention this in part of my president's report too, but I think many of you know this. We have had more Platinum Achievement Award winners in this past year than we have had in any prior year in the history of the club. In fact, we've, I think, added, roughly speaking, about 30% to our entire universe of platinum members. So it's a big deal. What's that? The total is now 43, I am told by Greg Bailey. Okay, so as I call your name, yeah, we're going to applaud each of you individually too. So as I call your name, please come up. We're going to have Superintendent McLeod present you with a token of recognition from the Department of the Interior and also from the National Park Travelers Club. Norman and Danka Pinaja. Norman and Danka, achieved their platinum status on January 15th, 2016. Come around over here, folks. At Honolulu National Monument. A couple of pictures taken here, let everybody have a moment. Congratulations. Yeah, we'll have everybody just stick up here, yeah. Pat Pearl. Pat got her platinum on March 21st. Of 2016 at the World War I Memorial in Washington, D.C. Jim Trevady. Jim may have taken a break. But, yeah, Jim was there. So he's here somewhere. So if we collect him, we'll make sure that he gets his stuff. But Jim got his platinum achievement on April 27th of this year at Castle Mountains National Monument. Bruce McPherson. Bruce made platinum. Yeah, that's right. Bruce made platinum on May 13th at the Knife River Indian Villages National Historic Site in North Dakota. All right, and in a we got the names up here. So, in an amazing flurry, the next 5 people achieved their platinum status in a period of only 5 days. Hey, here's Jen. Jen, come on in. Jen's so great, we applauded him twice. Okay, so in 5 days, the next 5 people achieved platinum status. Ron Miller, on June 1st, at the Volleyball Canyons National Park. Congratulations. Jennifer Williams. Jennifer was the very next day on June 2nd at Honolulu National Monument. Also, June 2nd, Amy Horst, also at Honolulu. A couple of days later, on June 4th, Dan Elias. Dan got his platinum status at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in Washington, D.C. And last but certainly not least, but most recent, Mary Lester. Mary got hers on June 7th at Castle Mountains National Monument. Let's give one more round of applause to all of our platinum. Absolutely. And the superintendent has something special.
In Philadelphia, Ben Franklin taught us when there's something really wonderful, you do 3 hip hip huzzahs. Are you with me? Hip hip huzzah! Hip hip huzzah! Hip hip huzzah! For all our paratravelers. Big letters.
All right, I'm not going to make them stand any longer. If anybody needs to take a couple more pictures, go ahead, but then I'm going to let them sit back down again. Going once? All right, newly minted platinums, you are free to sit. Thank you.
This goes to me.
I just want to give you a little preview. We will be having a break in the middle of the meeting. We've actually got a special treat of some NPTC logo gourmet cookies that we'll be having during the break. So that's coming up in a short while. We do have just a couple more things that we want to do before the break. We know that our Vice President, Mel Gilbert, will be planning on completing his platinum status later in this coming week as he visits the White House. That will actually be on Thursday, the day of the centennial. And I think there's some others in the room that know this, but the rumor mill has kind of been going that the president may be on the verge of announcing another unit or two. I can't imagine a better day to do that. I can't imagine a better day to do that than the day of the centennial. So my advice to Mel was go to the White House early in the morning. So I know, in addition to Mel, though, that we have some other people that are expecting to complete their platinum sometime perhaps in the rest of 2016, or at least before we'll get together again next year. Those of you who expect to complete platinum in this centennial year or before our next convention, please stand. We'd like to welcome you, recognize you, and look ahead to your success as well. Anybody? There's one in the back there. And now, Craig flashed me that number, 43. So I know there's lots of other people in the room here who are already the winners of our highest award at the NPTC, the Platinum Award winners. For those of you who are our existing Platinums, if I could please have you stand and be recognized. All right, now I'm going to turn the podium. Yes?
There was another one that just walked out right before you made that announcement, so we'll recognize it when it comes back.
Okay, all right, yeah. Oh, you know, and one other thing I want to say too, I don't know if anybody else got to meet the gentleman, and it was my fault for not introducing him before I saw him slip out the back door because I think he had to go. But we also have with us for a brief period of time the superintendent of Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument, who by just pure coincidence was here in Philadelphia on some personal/business travel, heard about our meeting, and decided to pop in also because he wanted to meet Cindy McLeod, but we had another high official of the Park Service here with us. So, in absentia, we can say thanks for being here. I'd like to turn the floor over to Mel Gilbert. And Mel is going to take us through some recognition of our volunteers who have taken on some important roles for the club and who have done some heroic work over the last year. So Mel.
The first aspect will be the Flat Hat Award. I will ask if Amanda Rom happens to be here today. Could you come on up real quick? While she's coming down, I had the pleasure to meet, I believe, our first Flat Hat Award winner, which is Ranger Murray out at Pat, that was working on the Young house, and he was a very good candidate. I had the pleasure of making the presentation of last year's Flat Hat Award to Ranger Scobie down at Natchez. I can tell you he was extremely appreciative of this award. He does tell everyone. His wife and two daughters went with us on a special tour. His daughters had never went on a tour with him. of that house. It was a unique experience for him. The superintendent was also very appreciative and passed the word out. The person that helped me make the presentation, we visited Cane River 3 days later. Oh yeah, we heard about the National Park Travelers Club giving that award out to that ranger. That's a different region, even though just a couple hundred miles away. So I think that these things are pretty important on that. This year's nominator of the award that won is Amanda Ron, is that correct? And who did you nominate?
Well, now you don't me on the spot.
Okay.
It was the ranger and George Rogers.
And that's Pamela Nolan. And could you just briefly give a description of why you think that this person deserved this Black Hat Award?
She was extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
She was extremely knowledgeable about the site and talked to us for a couple hours actually on every aspect of the George Rogers Park site, which I would not have realized was such an interesting site at all. It's just around Rotunda Miros, but it was fascinating. We actually went back twice because we got there about an hour before it closed and then we came back a couple days later. The other thing that really, really impressed me was her dealing with the foster child that we had at the time. He was very attention deficit, and she kept him on track, helped him with the junior ranger program, and was really good with him, especially when he went off on tangents. She brought him right back to what the junior ranger questions were, and that really was a help, and it really impressed me on that.
So, the awards committee has followed her nomination and has selected Pamela Nolan as this year's Black Hat Award winner. Thank you very much for your help in describing the nominee. We're want to hit a couple of items here. Just a few notes here. During our upcoming break, Yvonne is working on a project. Can you stand up and briefly describe that?
Basically what I'm doing up there is memory book, and I'm taking short videos. You can spend as much or as little time as you like, but it's just a little video to talk about the club, your experiences with the club, your experience with the park service, whatever you like that's related to us and park service. Our hope is to probably use these videos on our member website and make sure it's PR thing, let people know what it's about, and the types of events that we do, and what it's all about the park service.
Thank you very much. That's out in the lobby area. A couple other notes. Bruce needs a ride from D&B back to the convention hotel. Okay, so when you see him, if he doesn't already have a ride, ask him about getting the ride back there. Other notes, I found out that I owe somebody money on a bus trip that I took her place on in Ketchikan, Alaska. I told you I wasn't going to forget about it. It reminded me today. Okay, so now the pressure's really on me to get settled with you, right? Okay. We're talking about volunteers. There's been a lot of meetups already this year. Anybody that's organized one, I'd like for you to stand up real quick or raise your hand and say where it was and the month that it was in. I believe you're number one, Craig, aren't you? Did you involve? Weren't you involved in the first one this year?
Yeah, the Rose Parade.
January 1st. That's what I think. He's number one. Robbie, here you go, Pat.
Stonewall last 2 days ago, and August 25th, next Thursday in DC.
9 to 11, that's the one on the mall. if you're going to that, that is a time to take your business cards. We have, do we still have some, if you're planning on going on Thursday, that is a captive audience for joining the club, and there's already supposed to be over 1,000 people signed up for it. So if you get down there, try to hand those cards out for possible new members that day. What other places has there been meetups this year that volunteers have put on? Okay, thank you.
And we did, this is just grant, Chipotle Mounds, which from Stanford, we're very excited, in the Lewis and Clark site, May 1st, I think it was, basically all I said was, they did a great job.
I think about every one of these have been pretty great from what I hear. How about you, Jennifer? Say that again? Belmont, okay. Okay.
We did Minidoka, Idaho, and exactly at the site which they're developing aggressively now. They hope to have the new visitor center open in 2017.
Okay. Did you stand up? Oh, no, I thought you were standing up and announce. Okay, yes. Say it out loud. And it's going to be in October or last October? October. Okay, now, is there, okay, here we go. In June? Okay. So these are just the ones where it's a great time to meet up with other members. Are there any others planned between now and the end of the year, or somebody hoping to have? Let's stand up and really announce those good.
We have two coming up, the southeast contingent, we're going to go to Mobley on September 11th, down on business. And then we've got one that's growing on the 30th or 31st of October, first day at Newcastle Courthouse, probably lunch before the Newcastle service.
Okay, and did you have one? Okay, let me see, September 4th in Santa Fe. A 10-year historian from that site that will be also at that meetup. Anybody else that's taking later this year?
Trying to get enough to have one at Trinity this October 1.
Okay, you can't have those just every day out there, can you?
We have one next Thursday at the Lower East Side Tenement in New York City.
Oh, fantastic. Anybody else got one that they're hoping to have before the end of the year? Monday, September 9th. At what location was it? Okay. So if you hear some of these locations and or possible dates, and they're going to be on the website. Anybody have anything else on that line? Because I think this is a great way.
There's one this Thursday, the 25th, on the mall right here for the 100th Anniversary Park Service. It's being run by the Friends of Independence. There's a picnic. There's going to be a campfire right next to the Visitor Center this Thursday at 5 o'clock.
And that's also going to be a day involving the Mather project. And I'll just, here's the name. And we want to acknowledge Brian Bailey over here standing up. This is a volunteer project. Yeah. Now, you've been vice president. You know how to use this mic. Get over here and talk about this.
Well, for the Mather plaque, there were like 40 people that donated at least, and every little bit helped, and I'm very grateful that everybody did that, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to come back to Philadelphia in years and even decades to come and see the plaque and to see the National Park Travelers Club on there, and to know that you made that possible. Thanks, Rick.
And this is the spearhead of it right here with Craig Paley, the secretary, that was the spearhead as far as the board membership, executive board membership. I'd really like to, everybody give a special round of applause. Well, just ending things up involving member meetups. I was just talking earlier today, my best stamping day ever was on Manhattan Island at a member meetup, and I was telling Mike about that earlier. Just raise your hand. I want to appreciate that help on that. We have another member over here, but did you say that this is your first convention that you've been to? Well, he helped me out a lot, along with Jack 55 that day. And so this is a great way to create some long-time memories by having these membership meetups, and this is a record year for those already. Anything on top of this is icing on the cake.
How do you find out about these member hookups?
Well, each one of these would be announced on the website. That's usually under the main message board. I don't think it's under.
There's a meetup form.
Oh, okay, meetup form itself, yeah. Okay.
On the calendar.
They're on the calendar.
On the calendar, to answer your question also. And on Facebook. Have we got another question?
Yeah, well, probably a good time to announce that I organized a tour of the Philadelphia Cathedral Sunday in June.
Was everybody able to hear him because that was close in time?
So it'll be directly after the 11 o'clock mass. And if you want to attend it, come to it, you meet in the gift shop right after the mass.
All right, thank you. You have anything else? Okay, I contend that this is the most successful year of the club, with around a 25% increase in just 1 year. I probably put in about 200 hours as executive board member. You know how that makes me feel?
Yes.
It makes me feel weak and unworthy to how 200 hours makes me feel. My contribution to what the club has done the last year, it maybe is 0.5%. We have the other board members have put in so many hours. This is just a base amount that any executive board member can do. It's what I've done. Craig puts in that many hours, and that's just keeping me in line and making sure I'm voting on everything. Tim has been involved with the online store. I have a couple of items. Here's a hat that I have. We're going to have a couple of these as door prizes later on. Here is a jacket that you can get on the online store with the motto that Tim helped making the contest on right here. And anybody doing any electronic voting this year? Okay, Tim Kraut is the one that was involved with that. I don't think I'm giving too much away saying that about 90% of the voters were electronic voting, and so Tim was the spearhead on that. What about this convention? We have Connie and Mike that probably this year on the board, in conjunction with their regular duties plus this convention, probably has combined 1,000 hours of volunteer help. And I think they deserve a special round of applause. Paul, the treasurer, he does all the base stuff that I've done, but he does all the financial items on top of that, as well as all the insurance. That's why I feel guilty for only putting in the amount of time that I have, because they have put so many more hours ahead of me. Last thing, my Saturday line on Roland, what I predicted before he was elected last year was his leadership style for us old timers is a combination of Sheriff Andy Taylor, Ward Cleaver, and whoever the father was on Father No Space. And so I think that's a tribute. We talked a couple times about Pat today. I mean, she has put in 4 or 5 times more work this past year than I have volunteering. Stand up again, Pat. I mean, she spends about as much time keeping me in line as Craig has to. We have people that's in the audience involved with various volunteering. We've talked about some of the things that Robbie's done. What's that, some of the other things she have done this past year as a volunteer? Yell them out. And on the election committee too, right? Well, she was working until 9:30 last night on that, along with Debbie Roberts as a volunteer. All the time spent. Are there any moderators that's in the room today? Does anybody that's moderated in last year? We got one all the way back here. Cardinal Day. I mean, it's just a good thing. There's no Phillies Cardinals game this afternoon. We wouldn't be seeing them here right now. Okay, Vanessa. Okay, okay. Why don't you stand up here? Okay, well, you got to stand up a little bit more because people's going to get to know you a little bit better. Go on and. Okay, this is somebody. I don't think we're announcing the same secret because somebody ran it unopposed. Okay. Yeah, and so she'll be membership director September 1st. Who else is in here that's done some volunteering in the last year?
Sharon.
Sharon?
She wrote the awards.
Prints all the award certificates. So she stood up. Anybody else in here that has helped out? I can tell you, I may talk about 2,000 hours for the executive board members. That's a minority of the work that's put on by the overall membership. The other volunteers have put in a lot more than that, what we've talked about. So anybody that's been talked about as volunteer today, I'd like to give them a special thank you whenever you see them. And if you want to be a volunteer in the future, I hope you can see that this club would not be as successful without the volunteer help.
What about the people who do the database?
Well, we have some database help here, but we might be covering some of that a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
We have one more award that we want to give out. The Dennis Banley Spirit of National Park Travelers Award. He was well known as within the National Park Travelers Club. He passed away in 2013. This award recognizes a NPTC member that has made an effort to support other NPTC members and their pursuits in national parks or the NPTC in an unofficial capacity. Roland, will you come up and help me make this presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
This award was created to honor my husband. While I served in the front lines and everybody got to know me, he worked very steadily behind the scenes to make sure everything went smoothly at conventions, meetings, whatever. He talked to everybody about what they could do to go visit parks. He encouraged the members, which of course is our mission in the park. To get people into parks is the most important thing that we can do. And because he did that, once he passed away, the board members, while I was still reading, created this award. I personally can't think of anybody who has put in more hours than this year's honoree, and I am so delighted that he is going to be awarded this.
No, we're trying to find him.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's here.
Okay. Oh, we couldn't find him. Okay.
Okay, this award goes to someone who is unsung, unheralded, unrecognized most of the time, and probably puts in 2,000 hours a month. Easily. Alex, would you come forward, please, Alex Wilson? If anyone in the room that doesn't know, Alex is the heart and soul of our IT projects. He does everything for the club with regard to master database, all the different things that are needed to make the club run smoothly, and there's a lot of that. And he does all this as a volunteer with a young family, and still has to have a regular life, a life with a wife, a job. Can't tell you these untold hours he puts in.
Okay, please come up here too. You. Yeah. Emily. I'm just hoping that with all the hours that he has.
She deserves this one.
Yeah, well, I just wondered, does this help make you not want to divorce him because he spent so much time on this? Okay, then our award has accomplished its purpose.
All right, two things. I want to introduce the representative from Eastern National, Hank Schmoyer. Hank Schmoyer, he's with the IT department there. He's going to say a few little words. We don't have a lot of time to fit him in. But he will be here all day. He's going to do dinner tonight. Go up to him, introduce yourself, ask questions. Hank, a few words.
Hi. Well, first off, I want to say that my wife and I are proud members of the NPTC, and we hit 116 parks in the last 12 months. Not all of them are in our passport book because we bought a passport book sort of later in life, so we don't have all the stamps, but we've seen the parks. All right, and I'm the original creator of the iPhone app, the Passport Companion app that Eastern National now has. We're going to come out with a new update. The new update within the next week or so, and then the Android version will come out within a month after that. And I wanted to let you know that first off, thank you to Alex Wilson, because I did get from him the database of all the GPS coordinates. So on your iPhone and next month the Android phone, you'll be able to get the NPS coordinates that are on the master database through the phone, okay? So thank you, Alex, for that. The other thing I wanted to let you know that in the app, well, Eastern National this year has a brand new book we call the photo book, which has photos from all the national parks, and the app has the photos in there right in the app that come from this book, okay? One last thing I wanted to mention, and then I'm done, is there is a coupon code called NPTC-convention that you can use on eparks.com in order to get 20% off up until September 3rd. And the other thing is that photo book is now on sale at 40% off. So if you actually combine the two, you can get two for the price of one. Okay. So I love the photo book for another reason. 3 of the photos in the photo book come from me, from when my wife and I actually visited the national parks. Thank you.
And that code is in our agenda, and I believe it's also in the statement pad also, so you can find the code all over the places. All right, now I'm going to introduce Brian Bailey. He gave a little trivia contest for us, and it's going to be quick.
All right, so this is the NPTC quiz show. I have the questions in video, and I will be providing audio. If you know the answer, raise your hand, I'll point to you, and if you know the answer, I don't think there's a prize or anything for anything, so it's just for fun.
We're going to burn through it real quick. We'll have more after, and we'll give extra tickets out then. We're a little behind.
Okay, so go ahead.
Just let me know when you need to.
Okay,
Ready?
Yes. So, what is Samuel Powell's claim to fame? He was the first of something.
Signer of the Declaration.
Pardon?
Signer of the Declaration.
No, his fame relates to Philadelphia. He was an official mayor. So he's the last colonial era mayor and first mayor after independence. He was very loyal patriot and was a patriot mayor. Next slide. So who lived here?
Betsy Ross.
That's right. This is Betsy Ross' house. Seamstress extraordinaire. What is the name of this pedestrian street? Someone do you know this? Yes, it's Alfred's Alley. It's considered the original residential street in the United States. So who is this guy? It's the Philly Fanatic. And so if you've ever been to a Phillies game, you have learned how to put steam in there. One thing I learned in researching him is that according to his bio, he's from the Galapagos Islands. So based on what's going on in this picture, what is the day? Yes, it's the Mummers Parade on New Year's Day. And if you've never seen it, it's definitely worth coming to Philadelphia to see. So, at what museum with a very similar name to Mummers can you find Einstein's brain and other medical curiosities? Mother's Museum. Mother Museum. It's certainly if you have time and want to check out an offbeat attraction in Philadelphia, this is the one I'd recommend. There are there's a collection of skeletons, there's preserved body parts and formaldehyde and other strange and unusual things. I need you to fill in the line here. It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of. I heard some people. Yes, it's Annabelle Lee, and one of the more famous of the Edgar Allan Poe poems. He did not write that one in Philadelphia, though. Okay, so there's a tree that's circled here. I'm asking what is special about it. This is located in Washington Square Park here. It's a sycamore tree. Or it was a sycamore tree, it's no longer there. It's a, that's right, Craig said it, it's a moon tree. As a seed, it traveled to the moon, Apollo 14. There's actually several dozen of these that are still around the United States that some have plaques, some don't, and there's even a few outside the United States. The one that was here is going to be replaced with a clone. What famous restaurant is across the street from this scene here? This is a place called Pat's. Gino's, yes. So Pat's and Gino's being steaks, they are the two places that are most famous for cheesesteaks.
Yes.
So what is this building here? It's not the Mint, no.
Barn?
It's the Barnes Foundation, yes. This is a really amazing art museum that if you're into art, and especially Impressionism and modernist art, it's right here in Philadelphia. I would suggest trying to visit it. It has Cézanne, Matisse, it has a lot of very famous artists in the room. So what is the former hyphenated name of this building? Yes, it's Desha Morris. Now it's the George Washington Germantown White House. It's part of Independence National Historical Park. Some people consider this man to be the first U.S. president. He was president under the Articles of Confederation. Sorry. What? It is, yes, John Hanson. Many people probably not so much this club, but in general know or are surprised to find out that George Washington was not technically the first president of the United States, that there were presidents under the Articles of Confederation. However, they were very weak in terms of their power, and it was mostly a ceremonial position. And John Hanson was the most, was the first one, and one of the most prominent. Following up on that, where in Philadelphia can this monument to John Hanson be found? It's in a cemetery that some of you probably visited since you've been here. It's a church also though.
Christ Church.
Gloria Day. Old Saints Church. So what is the name of this place? This is Philadelphia's Magic Garden. This is another sort of offbeat place to go on South Street. If you're into sort of folk art or visionary art, this was created by Isaiah Zager, who is still alive, and you can wander all through it. It's just crazy. What largest of Philadelphia's municipal parks and attractions, including Centennial Arboretum, Memorial Hall, Please Touch Museum, the Belmont Plateau, and the Japanese House and Garden?
Oh, sorry.
Fairmont Park, yes. Another, not a national park area, but a very nice park area to visit if you have time. I particularly like the Japanese pagoda. It was very authentic, I thought. So who is this boxer? That is indeed Rocky. And so that's the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and those are the 72 famous Rocky steps that lead up to it. And I circled in the lower right corner there where the statue is relative to the entrance. So who created this iconic sculpture?
Robert.
That's right, it's Robert Indiana, and his last name, he's from Indiana, so that's why he took that as his professional name. There's also a smaller version of this sculpture right at the Visitor Center, the name of Independence Visitor Center. What name is missing from this list? George Clymer, Thomas Fitzsimmons, Jared Ingersoll, Thomas Mifflin, Gouverneur Morris, Robert Morris, James Wilson. The one that's missing is the most famous name. Right, Ben Franklin. And these people all were signers, yes. So what does this T stand for? Temple, right, Temple University. For almost 40,000 students, 400 degrees. So one of the major universities here in Philadelphia. What is the name of this animal found at the Philadelphia Zoo? It is. It's an okapi. It's related to the giraffe. It was one of the largest of the large African animals that was discovered. And Philadelphia Zoo is one of the oldest, is the oldest zoo in the United States.
Thank you, Brian. That was great. Okay, I am the only thing standing between you and break, and so I just have one or two more things to say. We've got a great treat for you. It's out in that foyer area, as I mentioned before. Please remember to consume all of the food outside of this room. So out there in the front room is where we have the cookies, or I think in this room as well. Please take your time now to finish collecting the various stamps we have out in front and to meet and talk to our guests from Eastern National. We'll resume in 20 minutes. And I want to also say, this is probably not as meaningful for you here in the room, but thanks to the efforts of our member Yvonne Mansky and the aforementioned Alex Wilson, and I'm sure a few other people too, we are actually going out right now live on YouTube for any NPTC members who are not here. We have a link up on our site, so I just want to say hi to all the members who are watching us through the magic of the internet. So with that, we will put up a slideshow of pictures of the members during the break, so feel free to wander back in here when you're not eating your cookie, and enjoy your break. We'll be back in 20 minutes. Thanks.
For me. I'm sorry, Len. I'm very touched. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. That's very sweet. Should I even now or later?
It won't melt.
It won't melt? Okay, that's good in here. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Sort of. Actually, I used the first presentation walked in slideshow, so everything is on the screen now. So I don't know, but it's very close up to the right. Yeah, they put Micah, so I have to know whatever picture I have of you.
Is it safe to leave our stuff here?
Yes, it is. There's a few people who are wandering in to see it as a historical event.
Oh, there's a flower show. I must have put it together. It was like a show.
I ended up coming on Thursday evening for a couple of days.
I joined specifically. It's like writing
What's that?
I like to see the different people.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
nice.
For laptop is not kind of like, he has an adapter, but the adapter isn't very good, so.
Yes, sir. We didn't know at the moment, right? Oh, it's in the
Yes. I'll just, yeah.
Oh, you're working on it. I was looking at the screen. I'm like, hey, what happened?
Sorry, I put my presentation on the
No,
desktop.
that is perfectly fine.
So you're good. I was just trying to check on the Wi-Fi. There is free Wi-Fi. It's just connecting.
Yeah.
Well, no, even just selecting it, and I'm just trying to figure it out. Whose computer is this? I don't know. You're playing
I
around.
think it is our secretary, Craig Bailey, and he's probably still out in the other room having this program.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Craig Bailey! Craig Bailey! Craig!
No, it's Connie's.
Oh, it's Connie's. Okay.
Never mind, it works. She had to go to the hotel and get hers.
Okay, Jacqueline had a question.
Can you find her?
If you could, that would be great. Okay.
If I want to combine this where do I go on the website? Yeah.
This would be one of the reasons why I said we should but we listen what they do.
Or your parts, yes, but that would just show the parts not your.
That's okay. Now, that was one of the, how do I get my stamps?
Oh, you haven't put any in.
I haven't put any stamps in
For
yet.
a person, do you use these, are you our signers?
Yeah, I use the iPhone. Yes.
Okay, I use
Yes. Hi. Oh, yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah, you'll be on shortly after we start. I think we'll do a couple of
Right.
So we'll,
That's what I
if
heard.
we will be back
Yeah.
in maybe 10 minutes.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure everything would work. Now, is there any sound or no?
I can get some. If you have a headphone jack on your laptop.
Well, I'm using this laptop, so I don't know who this is.
I'm
But...
sure there is. I'll get it run up in my car and I'll get one of the Bose speakers.
Oh, okay.
So, like, with parts what I say, do you want me to pull it out of your photograph? Yes. Sure. This is right. And then I hit the upload button and magically, and then you have to put on stage.
Right, okay. I always
Pretty simple. Yeah, the first
yeah, there was a time. Yeah, the reason, part of the reason why I was thinking more, we looked at that, like, Rhode Island. We looked too. Because like, only this, that's the only one that we do this. Well, but similar people. Yesterday when we went to New Jersey State Park, there's no listing on Eastern page. Right. And that was the thing. If it wasn't for the fact that people were going over and asking for extra, I wouldn't have been thinking that. Yeah, that, well, and that's why I think we need that. If nothing else, we're gonna stick to this
Yeah, I
list.
think someday we will.
Which I totally get that. It's just always one of those, it's like, why do I have to ask if it's a library or a park list? Because it's new from when I first signed up. And I was like, okay, now where do I should be finding someone?
Yeah.
Make no promises on how loud this will be.
Yeah, that's fine. It's really more of this imagery, and it's a list.
Okay.
But I have it all taken up, so yeah, if we want to plug it in and then see what happens. Yeah.
Do we want to run a little test? I'm gonna. Because I really don't know how loud it's gonna be. So she'll just press the play button and we'll have to see how it sounds.
Yeah, I have it teed up so I won't go down the.
I'm gonna let you press the button.
I hear it. Which I didn't hear before, so.
Right up front, I'm probably gonna hear it, but that's the best.
I was trying to see if the speaker system.
As long as there's not like dialogue, I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter, right? Or are you gonna be speaking as it's playing?
I was going to speak as it played, but I can if it's not. I muted it.
There's no way to hook it up even wirelessly.
It's a wonderful story about one man can read a book,
And once everybody's quiet,
understand why that's important,
I can hold it.
and
Okay,
then can
perfect.
Yeah, yes, it is fabulous, fabulous. Maybe they would open it up to a group like this the next time it meets well, if your lady here has a contact there, and now you know about the underground, of which feels really good, but it closed for a really long time. So not a whole bunch of people know about it, and I'm not sure if anybody here ever toured it. It used to be a tourist attraction. I don't know, but when you have a smaller group or a smaller classroom, then things might be able to happen. But,
Oh, that's my
Yeah, nobody can, yeah, Paul's looking, everybody else is looking for it. Okay. Thank you, Craig.
There's rules about overtime, you can't do that, and then he said, we will pay.
Oh, how are you?
So they're like, oh, okay, okay. But yeah, so they can't understand us, oh, remember what we told you about this? That's out, you can't go there. I've seen, there was a.
Well, they have a window that shows you. I know. Oh, they took it out. Oh, honey, when I was there last summer. Yes, Amber and I. Yes, the window was still there. You didn't walk. Right, last summer.
There was like
We've been there. But that one of our first days was like 30 years ago. But I remember.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I was looking for the person.
I saw them.
They got to wash the steps with washing them up, but I'm sure they didn't tour the underground, and they would have to make special arrangements. But once you have a connection, it's a great service.
That's very nice.
Well, I mean, that's pretty spectacular.
Well, we passed them while they were stopped.
We thought they were stuck here, they're going along the shore.
Right, and I asked them, I just said, hey, you're going to try that's great, and they said, yeah, we're ready to go.
Just so you know, I told them, I said, they're going to be a buses.
Yeah, that's good. I hope they're here. Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, all right, that's good.
It's on this job. Because that's running cats. My husband.
Because see, some of these are group surprises.
Yeah, this is the one too. He just has it out there. Then.
together, so they know the groupings.
So if you just pick something up and hand it to like Jim, maybe I can
Okay, all right, well, we'll make sure they're up.
She said put that to the bags. I didn't realize.
Oh, okay, all right, well, when the bag gets up here, I'll make sure that it gets in. They're gonna bring you the bag before we start. You don't want my. Right. Yeah.
Tasha, congratulations on your platinum status. Have you been? Yeah? Are you? Hey, you're still traveling. We're supposed to see you guys all over the place. Uh-huh. So now you've hit all 50 states, right? And then you've hit all the capitals. Oh, you did the residential libraries too? Oh, wow. Yeah, just to do state, like pick a state and do the whole state, the state, national, the state park kind of thing. That's cool. I'm looking forward to retirement. I have a long way to go. I'm looking forward to doing a lot of traveling. Yeah. Well, I do conferences twice a year that take me places, and I usually add a day or two here so I can catch some stuff. We go to the beach with my folks, so that usually gets me to the southeast. Yeah, we can run a little bit. I mean, like my parents took the whole month of August and drove this big loop from Pennsylvania out to Colorado and back, and did, like, I don't know, 20 different states or something. And these are other brothers, which they weren't really in the national parks, but that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. Maybe get an RV. I've been thinking RV for many years. I would just keep toying with the idea. Well, I think I am. The reality is usually somewhat different. Aren't you? Yeah. Oh, okay. Because I will say this was Yeah. 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 But see, for me, that would be the thing. And I would enjoy, I think, going to like a farmer's market in all these different states, getting food, bringing it back, and cooking in the RV. Because there's a limit. Like, I'm going to be in Philly this week, and there's just a limit to what I can eat. Just even breakfast. It's like I can't eat eggs every day. I can't stop at McDonald's every day. So, I mean, today I had a muffin. Yesterday we did have McDonald's. So it's like tomorrow, I don't know. It's just, I really just want like peanut butter toast. Where do I go and get peanut butter toast? Yeah. Yeah. So I can Well, that's true. You need a comfy bed. Yeah. I will say, yes. I would probably use scrapbook because I know what your RV is. That mango? So, paper weighs a lot. I found that out going to Tabasco with the balance. So I think, yeah, I'm not going to be able to take tubs and tubs of paper and like punches and all this
Alex,
stuff.
did you go to Edwardsville?
I did not. I'm from Indiana.
Yeah.
So I'm actually the road home.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But my wife from Illinois, she had friends who went there. So
Okay,
I was just
I
there
grew
hanging
up
out.
right near there, which is why I saw the shirt and I immediately knew what that meant.
Oh,
So,
really?
yes.
You know, actually, a lot of people ask. I don't think anyone's ever known.
Yeah. First.
Nice. I always just tell them it stands for Suey. You know, spell in the picture.
No. Yes, here. Connie, will you be the slide advancer for Jacqueline?
Oh, you are. Okay, yes. Oh, we're gonna let this play. We're gonna do a couple door prizes first.
Yeah.
We're gonna dip.
Ready?
Go back over. So I'm
All right, we have a few more people drifting into the room, and I'm going to go ahead and get us back on track here. Someone came up to me at the break and told me about something that I think is worth mentioning. So I'm sure many of us, probably essentially all of us in the room, have heard the famous aphorism about visiting national parks of take only photographs, leave only footprints. Well, kind of a corollary of that we always learned in the Boy Scouts was we usually talk about campsites, but essentially leave a place better than you found it. And someone came up and told me at the break that the Maitland family, who are amongst our newest members, I'm not sure if they're in the room here with us right now. I know that they're around and they'll be joining us for dinner this evening. But the Maitland family went on the canoeing trip yesterday on the Great Egg Harbor River. And even though I think they were amongst the very first people to start, they were the last to finish their canoeing trip. And the reason for that is that Mr. and Mrs. Maitland and their 2 children stopped their canoes multiple times through the course of their trip and managed to pick up along that river 5 bags of trash and threw it away. So I just thought, it's worthy of applause, and I think emblematic of the best of our membership in terms of the things we try to do to support the parks and make them better places. I thought it was worthy of mention. So what I'd like to do is we have our second speaker here with us now. I'd like to introduce her, but then before she begins her speech, I'm going to ask her assistance in selecting the tickets for the first wave of our door prizes. So if you have your blue tickets, get them out now, because we'll be pulling out the tickets and calling the numbers and handing out those door prizes in just a minute. So I'd like to introduce Jacqueline Rhodes, Assistant Executive Director of the Pinelands Preservation Alliance. She's our next speaker. The Alliance serves to protect and preserve the resources of the New Jersey Pinelands. The Alliance has been pursuing the mission for more than 25 years. Its principal goals are the preservation of the unique Pine Barrens ecosystem, including its plants, its wildlife, its landscape, and its waters. To promote public awareness of the value of the pinelands, and to advance permanent acquisition of land and development rights by both private and public conservation agencies. Jacqueline received her PhD in environmental policy from Drexel University here in Philadelphia, and she now teaches at Drexel in that same subject area. She has been on staff at the Alliance since 2004. Please join me in welcoming Jacqueline Rhodes. The bag of tickets. So Jacqueline, you can go ahead and pick one out. We're going to do about 7 or 8 of these, whatever you want. All right. They were actually connected, so I'm randomly picking one and throwing the other back in. Okay, the first number is 2016 018. 018.
Oh, Diane.
Oh, one more ticket. A couple more tickets.
Diane.
Hey, we're not for
Tickets, that's right.
So I'm gonna leave the ticket up here, and we'll see. 018. We've got here. They're gonna try and meet you halfway with the prize here.
It's 201-6018.
Yes, 2016018. All right, secure that ticket so he doesn't win it.
To go in? Go back.
Thank you. All right, one more. Again, beginning 2016059. Here we go. I'll let you do that over there.
All right, we'll do one of these. Ooh.
201, they get better too. 2016152. 152.
152.
Okay, we'll hang on to that for a minute.
No, we won't. Snooze, you lose.
2016040. 040. Anyone?
All right, it's really a nice book.
Putting the non-winners to the side.
You get a pen too.
Some people are still out having conversations. 2016069. There we go.
Yay.
All right, we're gonna do like 3 or 4 more. We gotta move the merchandise. 2016167. 167. Two 2016136. 136. There's a winner back there.
Welcome to you.
2016191. They're in the back of the room.
Oh, wait.
2016184. 184.
Up over here.
Two 2016012. 012. Anyone? Okay. We're going to try to get one more winner. Yes. 216154. 154. Stu. All right. I'm going to get out of Jacqueline's way and let her take the podium.
So that was like being a game show host. Anyway, thank you for that opportunity. Thank you. So thank you for inviting me here today. This is a great turnout, great facility. As Roland said, I'm Jacqueline Rhodes. I'm the Assistant Director at Highlands Preservation Alliance. I grew up in Philadelphia. These are my stomping grounds, not too far away in South Philadelphia. And I continue to live in Pennsylvania, but I work in the Pinelands, where it has captured my attention for the past almost 12 years now, and it's quite a wonderful place. Do you need go to view, and you should be able to do full screen.
Sorry, I'm not used to using it as a PDF.
Oh, no problem. So if you go to the next slide. So I heard some people went out canoeing yesterday in the Great Egg. Any others? Show of hands. Anybody else go out? A couple of people. So you got to experience a portion of the Pinelands. I heard some others maybe going out on field trips on Monday as well. Great opportunity to experience this wonderful place. How many people have been to the Pinelands prior to? Oh, good to see. So just some quick facts about the Pinelands. The Pinelands, as we call it, is the state-recognized boundary for administering where development occurs. But actually, the Pine Barrens ecosystem is much bigger, as you can see by this map behind me. It's about 1.4 million acres, so we're looking at almost like a quarter of the state of New Jersey. It's really cool. I should have put an image up where at night you can see all the lights that exist around the Pinelands throughout the state, where you see this black hole in the center of the Pinelands, in South Jersey, because the plan has worked for over 30 years and we have a lot of preserved land there. Next slide, please. So what makes this area unique? I mean, I saw some really cool pictures. Been to so many national parks. Every place is unique in its own way. Growing up in Philadelphia, I drove, down to the shore, never realized I was passing through the Pinelands at that time. Now they have better signs, so you're going in and leaving again, but you never quite realize what is there. So this place is so unique in that we're talking about waters that have a pH level that are considered acidic. So you're like, okay, well, what's interesting about that? Well, what's so interesting about that is for many, many years, our agencies that are set to protect our environmental resources actually thought that water was degraded, that it wasn't good, because of that level. We have poor soils, nutrient-poor waters and soils, which really has led it to be the acidic nature, but it's home to some of the rare species you could ever see in the world, even. Besides looking really cool, but these are some interesting facts. So I'll just run you through the mosaic of landscapes that exist there, and then I'm going to show you a short video and then come back to some of the threats that we're dealing with. So obviously forested areas, we're talking about pine tree, oak tree dominated landscapes. The pine plains, has anybody ever been there? We're talking about the pygmy pines, right? The short statured trees, pine trees that it is believed have grown this way due to severe wildfires spreading through that area repeatedly. So we're talking about an area bovine, you can look out and see out on the horizon, just above a number of these trees that exist there. Atlantic white cedar swamps. So a lot of these areas harvested over time during the industrial era. Also is very susceptible to changes in water levels, and we'll talk a little bit about the aquifer that underlies the Pinelands, which also makes it a unique system. And really, these swamps will only exist by the amount of water that is present touching the surface of the landscape. Next slide. So the streams and lakes are fed by the Kirkwood-Cohansey aquifer. So if you go back to your earlier science classes, I don't even know if I remember being taught this in high school, but an aquifer is like an underground cavern of water, right? Well, in the Pinelands, what we have is a superficial aquifer. So most aquifers, you have to drill down, there's like all the soil and bedrock on top, get a well in, and you're able to hit water. Well, you're actually canoeing in, swimming in the aquifer in these lakes and streams. It's open to the surface. That's why, the poor soils that exist there, rain hits the land, goes right into the aquifer. We're talking about 17 trillion gallons of water in this aquifer. And it's pretty amazing. Now you think with all that water, how could there be any threat to it? But in actuality, because all these streams and wetlands you will see and lakes are fed directly by the aquifer, you could put a well in nearby, and they can actually start draining the wetland, drying it up. And we've seen this happen actually on a couple of cases where they've had to shut down wells, not realizing this was going to happen. So as I said, the wetlands that exist there, high mountain tree frogs. Anybody ever seen a tree frog in person? Or at least heard its call, right? Again, very dependent on the water resources there, emblematic of the pinelands. You know, the tree frog we're talking about is real tiny, very cute, and although you're not supposed to touch it, there have been frog walks where you can actually, you know, get a net, look at it, and then you release it, right? Okay. The savannas. So we're talking about really isolated pockets of areas. We're talking about grasslands. We're talking about some rare orchid species. Do we have any botanists out there, or people hope to be a botanist? From what I understand, that you have to really study to be a botanist. And I know people have been doing this for decades and still don't consider themselves a professional. But they go out there and they find these rare orchids that unfortunately a lot of people come along to try to poach, sell, because of course they're so beautiful, but again, very rare to find in the wild. And then lastly are estuaries. So that first slide where I showed you the boundary of the pine barrens, it actually extends all the way to the shore areas in some places. So we're talking about a unique mixture of landscapes that exist within this pinelands areas. And many of the species that we find in the pinelands, you won't find any further north, as well as any further south. It's a nice mixture and stronghold for those edge species that exist here, as well as ones that, especially plant species, that have their last remaining stronghold in the pinelands. And you won't find it anywhere else in the world. So we like to call it the Noah's Ark because of that. As I said, the pine barrens tree frog, and we have timber grouse. We have a number of endangered species that we know their populations are dwindling. And with the pinelands that has remained protected for many years, continues to be its home for those species. And I think the next slide just talks a little bit more about that botanical heritage that we have there. So, you know, a number of variety of species that exist, 92 species that are rare. We have 5 that are only found in the New Jersey pine barrens. And then actually there's 1 species left that we can't find anywhere else. So basically if it loses its habitat here, it's extinct. And you will never see that again. So with that, I would like to, before I get into the thread, show a video, which should be queued up. Go down to or Mozilla. Yep, and if you do full screen, I'll wait for the right there. So this will give you a nice little background and see why this place is so unique and the people that protected it so many years ago.
It's a wonderful story that a one man can write a book, understand why that's important, and then can almost alone put together the resources and the political will to get something that important done for the state.
And I said to myself, if this is a good thing to do, I should do it.
There was always kind of a mysterious, magical place that people wondered about. The John McPhee book certainly had a lot to do with raising public consciousness about the pinelands.
The pinelands represents wilderness that you can't find in New Jersey and other places. You can drive just a few miles, whether you're in Philadelphia or you can come down from New York, and you can come out to an area where it is completely quiet. And it is a gift we have to come and walk away from modern life and distractions that is becoming increasingly rare for all of us.
This is the most densely populated state in the nation.
And while I always wanted New Jersey to be first in a lot of things, the one first I don't want it to be in, which in fact scientists and others say we're very close to reaching, which is the first state to be fully developed. And so it becomes even more important to preserve something as magnificent and big as the Pine Barrens.
The governor made it clear that this was going to be a legacy issue for him, and that he was fully prepared to make things happen, which is exactly how it played out.
This would not have happened but for the effort of Governor Byrne. He had the energy, the drive, stick to it, and frankly the courage to face the hostility that was there to get this through.
Governor Byrne was calling individual legislators into his private office in the State House to tell them how important this legislation was to him.
If it weren't for Governor Byrne, I don't think it would have been possible because the resistance was so fierce.
You have to realize, this is a real experiment. This is the nation's first national reserve. It's an alternative to a national park. Probably the best legislative representation of some of the most innovative land use planning techniques anywhere in the country, all kind of wrapped up, in one piece of legislation and one regulatory body, the likes of which we really have not seen emulated really anywhere else.
The jeopardy to the water supply that we have avoided as a result of the Pilots Commission is tangibly probably the most significant thing we've done.
This is how you make your legacy. You do something good environmentally. You save freshwater wetland. You preserve 1 million acres of open space. You preserve the pinelands. I mean, that's what people remember, because those are the things that matter to generations to come. And I think current politicians would do well to remember that.
A lot of the people, by the way, have come around and said to me, you were right, but not at the time.
I don't think there's any question, but the Pinelands has been a bipartisan, nonpartisan effort, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way it should stay.
Governor Byrne's role in this whole thing has been exemplary. And in 5 words, I would say, I appreciate his foresight.
Human beings need wilderness, if only to know that it's there, as a place that you can go to and be in, and that it is integral to our spirit as you can wander to whatever degree you wish. And that's what this place is.
And my children, hopefully their children, or whatever, they're going to say, and so, it's not
That we can ensure that are protected in the way that they should be is because the public buys into it. There are too many special interests that can have influence that they didn't have on those making decisions. They respond to the public, and if the public says no, this is something special, this is a treasure, this is unique, and therefore don't mess with it.
Okay, so hopefully get out there, we get to experience some of that great visual scenery and to see some of the unique species that we have in that region. So as you say in the film, and we got the opportunity to interview many of the former governors that were integral to creating and maintaining the protection of this area. As they noted, it's different than the national park. What we're talking about is a mix of preserved lands. So we have state forests, we have preserved farmland, so we have agriculture, which is integral to the area. We have, so the blueberry capital of the world in Hamilton, we're like third in the nation for cranberry growing. But we also have a mix of development in areas that actually fall within the Pinelands boundary that still allow development. Line, this invisible line that exists, and that's a result of the plan, the legislation that created this place. And it has worked again for so many years, so many decades that you could see that invisible boundary. There's signs there. It isn't like some places you might find like a wet or waterway, but in other areas, just far development ends. Next slide. So really, this is where that occurs. And so a lot of the group is owned by the state. The state you can have national wildlife there, maybe nonprofit services, and then you have all the other colors mixed in. So since prior to the plan creation, that was allowed to remain in existence. Other areas where they said, okay, well, this land that we're setting aside for forests, they can't really develop. We're going to send those development rights over to the red zones. And that's where we're going to concentrate people to live. So if you think about like a city, right? You build it out to its maximum capability, have high rises, things like that. That's where you send all the development. And that's really the plan, and it's a real complex set of regulations, but essentially it is guided by this map that was created when the plan was first created back in the late 70s. So you can see here the land that's actually preserved. So this is where, like I said before, in state parks and forests, national wildlife refuges, nonprofit lands, you have make sure that no development will occur. Now, in the other areas you can have, like maybe one house for 20 acres. And then in other areas, it might be a house per acre. But that map and the rules that go with it guide all that development together. So you can see here, basically the red shows developed area. And you can see how it's just surrounding the Pinelands. We're talking about, Cherry Hill, Atlantic City, Marlton, Camden, all those areas, right, that have been built out over the years that surround this region. So it's really worked. Now, so also had set aside the land for, it's a unique area. Nothing like this. They tried to do this in the Highlands in North Jersey, but they're still working through their details right now. But this plan has definitely remained through the test of time, through changes in politics, through changes in everything that we're experiencing now in order to survive. But the type of development that we still have within those boundaries can still have an impact. Also, political influence can make a big difference as well. It's a threat that we constantly have to deal with this area. So unlike a national park where we say, okay, it's done, it's set aside, we go visit it, it's a great place, you protect, the wildlife that exists there, the forested lands, the wetlands, we still have to deal with people constantly trying to make small changes. And it may seem like, oh, it's just a little bite at the apple, but everybody will keep coming at it over and over again. And it's something that as an organization, we're constantly dealing with and trying to combat. Water, coming back to that aquifer. So that is a threat. So we have to worry about how many wells exist in this area. As I had said before, if we put a well too close to a wetland, to those Atlantic white cedar locations, and guess what, it'll start drying up. And there has to be someone aware and watching to make sure that doesn't happen, because then you can lose those species forever. So what we experience here is you can see just how much water is used. The red is outside the pond. And obviously, because you have more development there, more people, you're going to use a lot more water. Inside the pinelands, we still have to worry about it. We're looking at about 41 million gallons per day that is being used. And we're talking about wells that, this actually doesn't even include all of the ag wells, because they do self-reporting and sometimes they don't even provide that information. So it's a constant resource that is being used. And what does that mean? So if you have development still in the borders, you still have withdrawals accommodating some of the development that was existing or some new development, we see changes in the water quality. So those red dots mean that the water is becoming less acidic. It's becoming more neutral. And that may be okay for places like here and vast portions of the United States. But in the pinelands, as soon as you change the pH of the water, and you add the nutrients, you lose primary tree crop. You lose the orchids. They cannot thrive on neutral water. They need the acidic content. They need the low nutrients in order to survive. And where we see those red dots is because the water quality is changing, and that can be a big problem. So we continue to monitor it. The pinelands has its own agency called the Pinelands Commission that gets to oversee the development to make sure that they're meeting the rules and requirements that were set in place by the Pinelands Protection Act. And they have scientists that go through to analyze what is happening to the water. And so through constant science, through constant monitoring, we can make sure that this place remains the same for another 30, 40 years. And one of the biggest threats right now that we're dealing with are pipelines. Pipelines, I'm sure you've heard about them through everywhere. But through the pinelands, it's a significant threat. 2 are being proposed right now. Actually, they received most of their approvals, which we're fighting in the court. And essentially, the problem lies in that these pipelines were projected to go through areas that don't allow development or certain types of development, especially not major infrastructure. So we're talking about cutting through the forest area. We're not talking about the development zones of the pinelands, right? Because that would be allowed. But this is what we're talking about, trying to go and take little bites out of that apple that you want to keep intact for other reasons. And they're trying to take away those protections and carve out exceptions. Well, if everybody starts carving out exceptions, then we take away that integrity of the plan, and they can lose these areas. So that is another fight that we're really focused on. But what is fantastic about having an organization like ours is that we can help share that information, share the message, help to inform the public to let them know that these threats exist, but also to let people know how fantastic the place it is, that they want to come see it. And the more people that enjoy the area and love coming back again, obviously that makes a big difference, because it is the public outcry and the public need that really drove the protection of this land and has kept it in place for years to come. So we continue to build the groups, the individuals that want to partake in both enjoying the natural setting, coming out and recreate, as well as those that will speak out at hearings and meetings. Former governors, Governor Byrd, Governor Kane, Governor Whitman in New Jersey, all have become very vocal, especially against the pipeline, but also about sharing the message of what does it mean to protect this area. And I think the next slide will show, Governor Kane, we had this big billboard campaign And former governors are holding a glass of water and saying, thanks to the Pinelands and Highlands, because this has supplied the vast majority of the drinking water in this state. And if we didn't have that, where would it come from? The Delaware River, from the ocean that has multiple costs associated with it. But if you can have clean drinking water that remains that way because you have the cars protecting it, then obviously that is a great economic reason for doing it as well. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I think I have one more slide. That, we're here not only to share that message, but also to get people out there and enjoying this wonderful place. And I think a number of people have maybe going on a trip with our Pinelands Adventures, and really presents an opportunity to have fun on the water. I was just out there a couple of weeks ago on the Mullica, and it was real exciting. I actually voluntarily jumped in the water out of my kayak, and it was very refreshing. So I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. And I don't know if there's time for questions or not, but I'll leave some cards up front if you have anything.
Does anyone have any questions? We have a few minutes.
What's your current legislative support in the state legislature and the governor's office?
Well, right now, it's not very good. There are certain legislators that are career legislators. They've been there for decades, and you do have those few advocates that really have just remained steadfast over time. But when it comes down to a vote, which it has on a number of issues in this past 8 years, we always miss out by one vote. And you never know if it's intentional or not, but we have to keep working on it. We really do. And even in those close ties, though, sometimes it just shows the rest of the elected officials and also the public that it's a hard fight to win and that we'll keep pushing. So when you have those real close draws that are like, oh wait, we're not going to touch this again for a while just because of the public criticism. But you go on these swings up and down, and right now we're. Anybody else? I'm just curious, how many people, anybody lives in the Pinelands? Or close to it, a couple of people? A couple over there too? I'm just curious where. Matt Hawkins? Where? Oh, okay, all right. Well, come see us since you're close by. Even in Philadelphia, it's not that bad of a drive either. So, thank you again.
Thanks, Jacqueline. A lot of us will be, some of us will be taking a kayak trip on Monday with Pinelands Adventures. We'll see that. Now we're going to have a trivia game with Paul.
There wasn't a stick in there, this is Pat's.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
One.
No, I'm gonna try my thing. Yeah. Okay, well, we're getting set up. This is going to be like everybody's favorite game on the website, mystery pictures. So how we're going to do this, we're going to put up a picture, and I'm just going to ask people in the crowd. I'm not going to try to do all one person. And if you get the answer, we're going to give you a prize from up here on the table. So as soon as we're ready, Connie, you can go to the first one. Do we have a junior member out here? Any young member who's know this? No, right there. Devil. Which one? You are correct. Devil's Tower. You got it. Devil. Next. Another reason, well, this is meant for the kids that aren't here. Carl. Oh, no, that's all right. Yeah, he's got it. It's arches. You can see how big the arch is. That's Don and I in the bottom. Right here in the blue shirt. Correct.
I didn't know how fast to go, so let me know.
As soon as I am.
Okay.
No, nobody? Hints. You probably saw it this morning.
First president.
It's the Liberty
It is the
Bell.
Liberty.
Okay, next. This is a cute picture. That's actually a mother bear nursing two cubs. It's a pretty cool picture. Let's go to this side. Everybody? Back there. Denali is correct. Right here. No. Go ahead. No. Keep going on this side.
For Pulaski?
Pulaski is correct.
I don't know who else.
Who we got over here? Oh, there's Donna. Say hi.
Hi, Donna.
Okay, Art. Art. It's not Donna. Did you know? No? Let's go to this side. Back, all the way in the back. Florissant? Yeah, that's correct. No, you were too slow. Right there. It's cat mine. I put that in for Sharon and she put her hand up. Next. Oh, there's me. Oh, okay, Daddy. That's Point Reyes. That's the lighthouse down.
Never stop that.
You can only answer one. She doesn't answer stop that. Valley Forge. Now look at that dancing couple. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Well, I can't hear you. No. 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 All the way. No. 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 Navajo is correct. That was our hike. That was our hike down. A little tough one here.
60 million beaches.
No.
Fire Island.
No. I can't hear you. Who said Salt River? That is the correct answer. That was our kayak trip out there. It should. Anybody? You already got one, don't you? Yeah. I'm trying to. That's correct. Little tough one. Natchez, correct. There's my stepson. Having a great time. Man? No. I can't hear you. No.
Hopewell.
Which one?
Hopewell what?
It's Hopewell Furnace. If you go out there on certain days, they let you like pound the sand to make it to cast the pieces. You can see the piece there. And the Jack. I know Bruce would know that. Let's go to this side of the room. Vanessa? No? No, you can't. You already got one. Okay, how about time for hints? Indians, ancient Indians.
I know.
It's in the state of Louisiana.
You didn't have a stamp to receive.
Boundary Point. Over here. I just put this in. I think it's one of the best pictures Don ever took. It's a great picture of Orca. But there is a park up there in the corners. Anybody got an idea? Who has it? We'll go here. No, back. San Juan Islands, yes. Let's go this side. Fort McHenry, yes. Should be easy. Have you answered? Yosemite is correct. That's the top and the bottom falls.
Who had Yosemite?
You already got one. Don't give it away. Anybody? Ozark. How did you get that? Yeah, Alley Mill. That's like quite a nice little place if you ever get there. It's a great hike around. It's the spring. Next. Let's go over here. That's Carlsbad. Could be a few places.
There's a lot of places.
Which one? Can't hear you, but I don't think it's right. No, it's not Hatteras. Cape Cod is correct. Back there. Diane, you can't answer. Well, maybe you can if I'm getting hands. You have an answer? No. Art, didn't you get one? Oh. Okay, what is it? Yes, that's the Kennecott Mine. Who has an answer? Let's try right there. That's dinosaur, yes. Back there. Look at that smile. All the way in the back. Which one? No. Right here? No. Right here? Which one? No. Sequoia, yes, that's from Morro Rock Overlook. Jit? Which one? No. Back here. Yes, it's 96. National Historic Site. I don't think you. Yes, that's the basement, the Edgar Home a great hike if you ever hear. Red shirt, did you answer? You got it right, okay. That is Bryce Canyon. Look at that here. Right there. Biscayne is correct. That's from the lighthouse. Anybody? Oh, have you answered? You haven't got one right? Go ahead. I can't hear you. No. Over here. That is correct. It's Arkansas Post. He's holding up the world with his head there. That's my youngest son. No. All the way in the back. No. You're on the right coast. Which one? No, but you're getting close. It is Mount Rainier. I think that's the trail among the trees.
Grand Canyon.
You won already. Right here in the yellow shirt. No. Bighorn Canyon, yes, that's correct. Easy one. Right there. That's not the right answer, but you're on. Go ahead and pick some notes. Up here? Yeah. Whoever you pointed to.
Devil's Post.
It's the Devil's Post file. You sort of had it, but it wasn't quite right. Let's go to this side if we got anybody. Nobody? Right here, Pat. You're correct, it's Constitution. Have you answered? Yes, it's correct. Have you answered them? Not yet. You're right, it is already, it's the Chateau. Very nice little site if you haven't been there. Man, these days. I'm not trying. Yeah, okay, you're running up prizes, we'll give tickets.
We're gonna give tickets from this point up.
Connie, what slide is it?
We have tickets?
I don't have a
You don't
comment
know.
on it, sorry.
All right. No, you were there when I took the picture. Yeah, it's Canyon de Chelly. We had a very heavy rain. We got some waterfalls you hardly ever see.
Who was that?
Here's a picture from the
Oh,
past.
I'm here. Aw.
Pam, you answered one? Yes, it's so you know.
That was the 2011 convention.
Yes. Correct. It's San Antonio Missions.
We're gonna go to tickets instead.
Tickets, do we have?
Craig's got it.
All right. No yelling out. But that is correct. 4 point. This is scary. Have you got one right? So we'll try. Yes. Yes, that's Garfield Tower. Just don't look at the back of it. That one got all the money.
Maybe.
Right, we're around the whole prizes, so we're just giving extra chances now. So that's why we're giving that ticket. It's right here.
Katie?
No. Southern California. It's Cabrillo, yes. You might recognize that.
Where's Pete?
No.
Statue of Liberty?
No. No, you're on the right track. No. Minuteman was kind of close. It's Bunker Hill Monument, yes. That's the step at the very top. Where am I running for president? Okay, all the way in the back. Yes, that's the Johnson House. Anybody? Yeah, it's Little Rock Central High School. All right, Carl. Yeah, that's Benson for it. There's a happy hiker. Right here.
You're right.
No. Yes, it's natural religious. Having a good time. Standing there emulating meeting to the Sierra Club. That was a hint. Somebody. That's Muir Rock. It's right next to one of the other answers. Right there. Yeah, that's Kings Canyon. I just like this picture. That's a holdover from last year. Yeah, that's the Natchez Trace. Right here. There's me plodding along in the front there. I can't hear you. Well, we're giving out tickets now, so. No. Yeah, the cave? Yeah, that's it. That's the trail up to the cave. I got about 5 more minutes, so. Okay, Debbie? No. I heard the answer. It's Antietam. That was at the 150th celebration. I'm running for that. This is where I was running for that presidential position. Okay, Sharon? Yeah, let's knock that out. That's one of our special places. Too bad that thing didn't go off. All the way in the back. Which one? No. No. I heard the right answer. Who said it? Chickamauga is correct. That's Lookout Mountain. Okay. Yeah, it's Virgin Islands. That's one of the sugar plantations. A little bit of a tough one. It's in Wyoming. I can't hear you. No. Yes, it's fossil fuel. I recognize this. Yes, that's homestead. That's showing how much land was homesteaded in the States. Now, somebody's gave me this one before. No. Vicksburg. Let's go towards the back. Anybody in the back know this one? Okay, right here. Speak up, I can't hear you. No. 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 It is a national park. No. No, it is one of the 59 national parks. It's right here. Yes, it's Iora or Royal, however they pronounce it.
Who got that?
There's my son trying to get to it. Okay, the bond? Yeah, that's the balcony house door that makes it dirty. Yvonne. Right here. Yes, that's I just love the hands. So we only got about a couple. We got about 2 left. Right here. Which one? I don't think that's right.
It is.
No. You're very close. Okay, Joe, do you know? Yeah, it's Great Smoky Mountains. That's the observation tower.
That is Clinton's down. Right, it is.
Ah, the last photo. I'm trying to get out of jail. Any ideas? Right here. No. Anybody? No. Which fort? No. What? No. 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 You can't play. Wyoming. Yeah, Pat got it. It's Fort Laramie. Okay. And that should be it. I hope you had fun. I like doing this. If you like it, I'll do it again next year. And I'll put the slides online. Thank you.
Oh, the ending report. Are we just going to look at
Thank you very much, Paul. Always entertaining. So, and the reason, just to be clear, why we were giving out tickets at the end is we had worked our way down to essentially the major prizes. And so we wanted to give chances as broadly as possible for those major prizes. So should we do a few more of those right now? Okay. 8. So 8 of them. We're going to select 8 winners. Oh, you want to help? Oh, no, Nancy. Nancy, you help me. I'll help you there. 2016-174. 174. Right there, Paul Esser.
Here we go, let's go. Here we go.
Very close in number, 2016-172. 172. Look at your tickets. No winner on that one? That one aside. 2106-158. 158. A winner back there.
And I just want to explain what this is. A few years ago, the club gave a donation to Eastern National for a book that they were doing. And as a thank you for our donation, they gave us a facsimile of the Declaration of Independence. So that's this. And they thanked us on the book and were mentioned on the Declaration.
Right under John Hancock. 2016-075. Right here in the middle. Is anybody helping Mike right now? We probably should have a second runner.
If you know me what it is, I'll take it back. And then I'll have to call past me.
I'll let them catch up. 2016-162. 162. Right here in the middle.
Okay.
2016-225. Right here.
I've been counting how many you've done.
That's 5 winners right now. We're going to get to 8, and then we're going to go on with some more stuff. 2016-195. 195. Going once, twice. Okay. Next. 2016-192.
Yes.
Right here.
Mike, where are we?
2016-055. 055.
Over here?
Oh, right here?
Okay, this is the gift certificate for the online store, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, $25 gift certificate for the online store right here.
Okay. If this is a winner, this should be our last for a few minutes anyway. 2016-081. Right back here. All right, now I'd like to turn to the official business of the club for at least a few minutes. So I'd like to start by formally reviewing the minutes. I won't read them all in total, of our July 2015 meeting in El Paso, Texas at the Chamzal National Memorial. The minutes have been posted online and they are also printed in your program. I don't know if anybody got a chance to read them, but do we have any corrections or changes to the 2015 annual meeting minutes? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a motion for approval of those minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. So that was Connie Corrigan who made the motion, and second by Tammy Bledsoe. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion to approve is passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to take just a few minutes, and I know we're hot and kind of late in the day, but my one constitutional duty under the bylaws of the club is to give a president's report. So I'm going to make it short and I hope rather sweet. So this has been, by just about any measure, an absolutely historic year for our club. I am nothing more than lucky to have been in the role of president during this year, as we have had some just absolutely remarkable things happen. We have seen just incredible growth of our club. We are reaching significant size. In fact, at our last official report by our membership director, and he actually would have made a report here today. Unfortunately, Tim couldn't be with us. But I'm going to touch on just, really the main highlight, and that is that we were at nearly 2,000 members as of his last official report, and I would not be at all surprised if in the few weeks since then, we have actually reached 2,000 members nationwide and in fact around the world, because we do have some international members of the club, which is absolutely amazing from something that started not so many years ago with just a few enthusiasts of visiting national parks. Also, in this year, we have had, I think it's fair to say, absolutely unprecedented media interest in the club. We've had organizations from major newspapers to in-flight magazines of airlines to university alumni magazines reach out to individual members, reach out to the club itself through the leadership, to ask us for information about the club, to report on some of the amazing things that our members have done. In fact, if I could just single one thing out, only because it was the most recent in time, I was contacted by a writer for the alumni magazine of Old Dominion University, who is doing an article on our own Deborah Archer, and in particular because of the remarkable year that Deborah had last year in visiting parks with well over 300 units, many hundreds more stamps, just an almost unreachable record of visitation across parks. I said almost unreachable because of the absolute craziness that our members, Cardinal Dave and Leland, are going through this year, trying to top each other in visiting parks in this centennial year. And I think there's at least a chance that both of them might catch the amazing year that Deborah had last year. But the person from the magazine reached out through our website, sent me a note and said, I'm fact checking this article. And I thought, well, did Deborah tell fibs or, no, she just said these numbers are absolutely remarkable that she gave me. And so I just wanted someone to actually affirm them, that they're true. And so I checked with our official resources, I checked with our committee folks who do that, I checked with Craig, and so it's all right. And it was published on our website. Did I touch anything? Yeah. Oh, okay, well I will just speak loudly then if we're out of battery. So that will make me keep the president's report even more short. Okay, so I just wanted to say once again, I've already said it, thank you to my fellow board members, to the many volunteers who make this club run. Like I said before, this is my first year in leadership with the club, but I have been surrounded by people with many more years, in fact, more than a decade in some instances, of leadership in the club. So I've been supplied with rich veins of advice, support, all sorts of assistance that I needed to get through this first year, and I'm looking forward to a great second year as we lead up to our next convention that we'll be having next summer. And I also wanted to just point out a couple of things that we did that were special to this year. Of course, in recognition of the centennial year, we came up with a new award for the club, the Centennial Award. And I've already seen, a lot of the chatter on the forums on the website. It seems like it's been a very popular thing, that lots of people are out getting the centennial stamps. And I expect that by the end of the year, we're going to have lots and lots of award winners. Maybe nobody quite up in the stratosphere with Dave and Leland, but lots of people who will be getting the Centennial Awards. Check that out. Cracks, what did I just say about having all kinds of support from fellow board members? So we don't really have time for it formally during the meeting, but tonight at dinner or later when you get back home via a private message, through forum posts, you can send me an email directly through the website. I would love to hear feedback from any or all of you on how you think we're doing. One of the things that we instituted this year were monthly live teleconferences of the executive board. We hadn't had that prior to this last year. We kind of fumbled our way getting started a little bit at the beginning, but I think they're running rather successfully now. And we've had a number of members who have occasionally joined us online. Some are very regular attendees in calling into those. We also record those meetings and we post them on the site for anybody to listen to later if you can't be there present when we're doing it in real time. So I encourage all of you to listen to those meetings, see the sorts of things that your leadership is up to, that we're arguing about, trying to come to consensus on. But it shows that there's a lot of developments that go on in the background that I'm very proud of and keep the club up and running. I also want to point out just a few really amazing statistics about this particular meeting. So Mel was kind enough to go through our sign-in book and do some quick compilations about you all here present today. We have 205 people that signed in on the registration book for the meeting today. That is the highest attendance we have ever had at an NPTC annual meeting. So give yourself a round of applause. 35 states plus the District of Columbia represented here today at our annual meeting. Just remarkable breadth of membership. The fact that people take time out of their lives, and no small expense, I'm sure, to travel across the country, to join with their friends and fellow travelers, to share a little time and a little fun, I think is an absolutely remarkable thing. We also think that that's, in all likelihood, a record for the number of states represented at a meeting. Now, the states with the most attendance. Now this comes as no shock. There are states that are relatively close to it. In third place, with 17 attendees, right across the river, the state of New Jersey. Yeah, applause for New Jersey. And in a tie for first place, each with 18 attendees at the meeting, our host state of Pennsylvania and its neighboring state of Maryland. So that is all I have for my formal president's report. I'll quickly ask my fellow board members if there's anything that I've forgotten as a part of my report that they think I should be saying. Okay, yeah, I should point that out. So although Tim could not be with us, he provided us some charts and graphs, which I particularly love, in the special stamp pad issue for the meeting. So it shows graphically where we're at in terms of membership and some of the growth that we've had over the years. Oh yes. So Cammie pointed this out. She actually posted on her own personal Facebook page. She kind of borrowed imagery and links from our site to promote the club to her own set of friends on Facebook, and encourages all of us to do the same thing when you get a chance to do so. So I actually put on there that I'm the president of the National Park Travelers Club, and so a bunch of my friends have asked me what that was, and I've even gotten a few of them to sign up, not to stuff the ballot box or anything. But anything else that I need to cover? Otherwise, I think I'm going to turn over the floor to Pat Hurl. So as election committee chair, we're going to have Pat give us the rundown on the results of this year's election. Pat.
I want to thank Debbie Roberts and Robbie Lizowitz, and Alex Wilson and Scott Stevens, who are our technical advisors to the Elections Committee this year, because as you all know, we went to electronic balloting. We had a total of 376 ballots cast. One ballot was invalidated because a pin was not put on the security envelope, so it wasn't counted. So that ended up to be 370, we had 377 cast and 376 were counted. I'm going to go through these in the order they were on the ballot. We had 4 officer positions open, or up for election. First one was secretary. Craig Bailey was running unopposed. He received 333 votes. Treasurer Paul Harrison was running unopposed. He received 333 votes. Membership director Vanessa was running unopposed. Guess who won? She received 320 votes. In the one member at large position that was open this year, Jesse Bender received 141 votes, and Mike Brown received 206 votes. Mike Brown was re-elected for 2 more years. Amendment A was the family membership amendment that was proposed by John Georges. That received 241 yes votes, 129 no votes, and it did not pass. That was 65.1%. Amendment needs 66.7% to pass. Amendment B, which was shortening the election cycle, 370 votes were cast, 299 yes, 71 no. That passed with 80.8%. Amendment C was the amendment if 3 or more candidates ran and they didn't, there was no majority, how to resolve that. There was 293 votes yes, 58 votes, I'm sorry. 293 votes yes, 75 votes no. That passed at 79.6%. And the last amendment was changing the 400 level award to naming it to titanium. 312 votes yes, 58 no. That passed 84.3%. And will be posted momentarily for those people who are not here.
And Craig said we just did.
Okay.
Once again, just want to say thank you to Pat and the election committee. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into that. Always a tough job. Glad somebody is doing it for us. As Craig said, we just posted the election results online. And if anybody was watching on YouTube, just once again to remind that we're going out live over YouTube, they saw it, I think, even before Craig posted it. So we have got the final wave of door prizes to do. And then they're going to kick us out of this place. 5 o'clock, we got to be out of here, so we got to get through this pretty quickly. If I could have Vice President Mel Gilbert come and help me pull tickets here. (2106-029). Right here. And when we get down to the very end, we've got a couple of fairly notable prizes, so we'll actually take a moment to say what they are. So, next one, 2016-165. 165. In the back. She's going fast.
Okay.
2016-088. Right here, Will. Two zero one six. Boy, after a while. 052. Right here in the front. Easy. All right, I'm not saying those first 4 numbers anymore unless they change. 240. 240, last 3 numbers. Anyway, 240 right here. Right there. Yeah, if you can keep your hand up for our runners so they can find you. 064. Last three numbers, right here on the aisle.
Oh, this is the booby prize.
Thanks. Yep.
078.
Yes.
78, right here in the front. Okay, one of the higher numbers now. 248. 248. Anybody?
I think that's me. Yeah, I just dropped one. I like 249.
If we hear no other 248, we're awarding it here. 020. Way in the back.
It's t-shirt size.
A gentleman doesn't ask
For her husband. I'm going to guess a small.
178. 178. Right here? Right here in the front. Zero 90. 090.
Right?
Okay. Very honest. 085. Right there. All right, we're coming down to the wire here. 185. 185, back there. One 88. One 20. 120. Back here. 120. Back here in the far corner. And they're walking across. One 105. 105 right here.
Hand up, hand up. Scott? Go like this.
Okay. Connie just reminded me that as you're leaving, there are some extra cookies and some notebooks out front. Please feel free to take them with you as you're walking over to Dave & Buster's.
The intent is to keep it, but they aren't.
Okay, and if you're going into any further events this weekend or Monday, Tuesday, so forth, hang on to your name tag, but if you're not, please drop them off before you leave because we recycle the little plastic and string parts for future years. But you can keep your name tag, that's right. 200. Straight in the back. Zero 79. 079.
Oh, yeah. Small one, I don't know. That would work. Okay.
One last one, and then we're saying what they are. Two. Okay, two. All right. Three. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Nobody. Okay. 042. One 60. Right back here. One 63. On the far aisle over here in the back. Okay, this next prize is now increasingly rare. It is a complete 2010 set in pristine shape of the National Park quarters, along with a Celebrating America's Treasures, Our National Parks booklet. Oh, I'm sorry, and 2011. Oh, we'll make it separate. Okay, so 2010 and the booklet, and it goes to 129. 129, right here.
2011.
And now the 2011 set, 045. All right. Right here. And now these next items here, the United States Mint this year, in honor of the centennial, issued a series of coins, especially strung with imagery from the national parks. And what we have here are 3 proof quality half dollars and 2 of the silver dollars. And they're worth a lot more than a half $1 and $1, I can tell you that much. And one of the America's Treasure coins. So the first half dollar, 145. 145, right here. The next half dollar, 171. 171. Nobody? 098. Back here? Where? Right back here on the, in a blue shirt. Go inside here. 196. 196. No hands? 238. Right back here. Okay, that was the last of the half dollars. Now we've got one of the dollar coins. 216. I thought we had 2 of these. Maybe. Oh, we already gave one out. Okay. The number is 216. Right back here. One last set of the quarters. This is the year 2012. Yes. 239. 239. Right on the line. Okay. Who won this one? Okay, this one's pretty cool. This is an original 1916 National Parks portfolio produced by Stephen T. Mather and Robert Sterling Yard with the endorsement of the Secretary of Interior Franklin Lane. These were originally provided to members of Congress and other senior officials as a way to promote the idea of the National Park Service. After the NPS was formed in 1916, they continued to be updated and published for many years afterwards as the definitive official guide to the national parks, an early version of the NPS Red Book, which is published today. This initial set was produced with private funding, as well as significant funding provided by Mather himself. Later versions, of course, were published using government funds. So this is one of the 1916 originals. The number is 047. Right back there. Okay. Okay. All right. So this last item is rather large. If you flew here, obviously we'll see about shipping it to you. But if you got your RV or something with you, maybe you can haul it home. So
70 pounds. It's the National Park Edition Coleman Grill.
So it is the National Park Edition Coleman Grill. So they expect to be invited over for grills. The number is 214. 214. Okay, that is, I think, all the official business of the meeting. Oh yes, yeah, Craig reminded me. Next year we will see you in Rapid City, South Dakota. The date of our meeting is July 15th, 2017, and of course we'll have events on either side of that date. Our host park is the Mount Rushmore National Memorial, but we already have tentative planning underway at the many, many parks surrounding that area. It is a great place for parks in southwestern South Dakota. And again, we still have the stylish aviator sunglasses, if anybody left those. These were found in the washroom, so if they're yours, come up and claim them. Dinner tonight, President's Dinner at Dave & Buster's. Do we have a registration time, Mike, when we can check in?
Anytime.
Anytime, you're welcome to check in. Thank you all for coming.
We have a request from a Platinum this year to have a picture of this year's Platinums with the past Platinum. Is that correct? Is that what you request? Yeah, just to step right up here.
Okay, so the Platinums come on up front for a picture. Yes, question. Dave & Buster's on Penn's Landing. So it's right over on Delaware Road. It's pretty easily walkable from here. What? Everyone has to check in with Paul. Here, Paul, or over there? Over there.
And we have a private room. When you go in, you go upstairs to the second floor, make a left as soon as you walk in. That's our private area.
That is insane, but I'm super good.
For anyone who wants to drive to Dave & Buster's, there is parking over there. There's an additional fee for that parking. However, if your car is here at Arch Street, you're free to leave it here, drive over and walk out.
Sorry.
Are you leaving?
On the cruise? So it's fall, so it's good weather.
Where did I lose the bread?
No, 3 blocks north of where the map is. Okay, here you go, right here. So, yes.